Audio Jungle. Audio
Chapter 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven,
Now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ.
Tonight we get into chapter 12. The book has been opened. From chapter 12 to chapter 14 in your manuals, for those of you that have, we have taken another intermission. We are still in flashbacks. Remember I told you when you go into the book of Revelation, we need to identify between the big movie and the flashback scenes. So here is another intermission. A number of incidents are repeated from another angle. However, they are now more in symbolic nature and related to the Jews. We are now introduced to 7 major characters as we see events in more details. Now, sometimes when a movie starts, you'll actually have some action and so on and go on. And then they will pause it and start to tell you who's starring. So this one is the star here, that one is the star here. That's what chapter 12 is. Chapter 12 takes a break to take some time to tell you who are the stars in the movie. Alright? So, for example, we will see the woman is the house of Israel. The dragon is, of course, Satan. The man-child is Jesus. Michael is the archangel over the nation of Israel. The Israelites are the seed of the remnant. The beast out of the sea is the political pool of people made up of the people from Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome, which is actually the political antichrist. And then you have a beast out of the earth, which is a religious pool of people, which is going to be the rise of the false prophets. So first of all, let's go. Chapter 12 focuses on the woman, the war, and the woe. We see 4 great things, which are the great sign, the great red dragon, the great eagle, and the great rat. Now, one of the things you'll notice very quickly in this chapter is you'll see the word great wonder. Whenever you come across that in scripture, it is put in focus to tell you that the audience is a Jewish nation. Whenever God is talking to the Gentiles or the church, he will speak directly, but whenever he's talking to the Jewish nation, he actually uses signs, wonders, he uses parables, he uses things like that to be able to talk to the Jewish nation. So clearly, you see off the bat a great wonder. And not only that too as well, you have a woman, she is standing on the, she's clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and the crown of 12 stars on her head. If you reflect your mind back in Bible, there is only one other time where you have an incident took place that had sun, moon, and stars in scripture. And that is when Joseph had a dream about his brothers will bow before him. You remember that? And he saw his 11 brothers and his sun and the moon giving obeisance to him. And clearly in Genesis 36, 37, 38 thereabout, it puts focus that it was indeed the house of Israel. So if it is the nation of Israel in Genesis, it is the nation of Israel here as well. Are you there with me? Alright? So very important for us to identify. The woman represents Israel. Her child, of course, is Christ, the Messiah. So you'll notice that she was ready to give birth, and the dragon stands ready to deliver a child. And as you remember, when Christ was born, at that very point in time, Herod, the political power of the day, sent out a slaughter to kill the child. Alright? So the dragon stands ready to devour the child. The woman is not the church, since the church did not bring forth Christ, but rather, he brought forth the church. So the church did not birth Christ. And there are people that go around teaching that the woman here is the church. That is an incorrect position, because it's the nation of Israel that produced Christ, based on the fact that it has the Jewish symbols of the sun, the moon, and the stars, and it also indicates a great wonder. Are you there with me? Very important. So he is the one that brought forth the church. Her identification as a persecuted Jewish saint clearly proves that the church is not on earth during the tribulation period. The sun depicts her as a chosen nation of God. The moon under her feet alludes to God's promise of domination. And the crown of 12 stars pictures the royalty and relates it to the 12 tribes in the nation of Israel. The birth pain refers to the period before the birth of Christ, when Israel was waiting for redemption by the Messiah. This is also connected to Joseph's dream in Genesis chapter 37 and verse 9. Are you there with me? Now, in verse 4, 3 and 4, we see now a great wonder, or again another great wonder in heaven, a great dragon, a red dragon, and red there showed that he is murderous in his nature, the murderous beast, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, the 7 heads are the 7 world empire. I'm going to pull that up shortly in a bit when we get into chapter 13. But the 7 world empire will be Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, the Persian people, the Grecian Empire, the Roman Empire, and the one in the future, which is the revived Roman Empire. So, what we identify is the dragon is identified as Satan in verse 9. His red color shows his murderous character. You all remember John 8:44, Jesus said that he was a murderer from the beginning. Alright? So his murderous character. His 7 heads and 7 crowns depicts his completeness and universality of his power and influence. His 10 horns shows Satan's connection to the 4th beast of Daniel chapter 7, and with the beast of the sea in Revelation chapter 13. A third part of the stars, so his tail will actually pull a third part of the stars from heaven. And this, of course, is showing what happened at the point of the fall. When he was kicked out of heaven, you remember that 1/3 of heaven came with him. So he pulled a third of the stars from heaven. Is probably the fallen angels who followed Satan in his original rebellion against God. At the time of the birth of Christ, Satan was ready to kill him. So you notice at the point of the birthing of Israel, about to birth the man-child, you notice that the dragon is ready to devour the child. The man-child is Christ, verses 5 and 6. The man-child is Christ, destined to rule all nations as the Messiah. So you will notice here that he will rule the nations with a rod of iron. That is Psalm chapter 2. Alright, but he will rule the nations with a rod of iron. He is caught up to God and to his throne at his ascension in heaven. So notice that the man-child not only has the ability to rule the nation, but he's caught up to God. That caught up to God, that word caught up is the same word for rapture, which means here for Christ is raptured to heaven, or he is ascended to heaven. Are you there with me? Same terms that are used. So he's caught up to God and to his throne. The wilderness. So what you have, because this chapter is showing you the nation of Israel in the supernatural world, it is jumping time. Right? It is showing you what Satan was doing prior to the creation of man when he pulled 1/3 of the stars in heaven. Then it is showing you his activity at the time of Christ's birth, and then what happened in the ascension. And then it jumps again, where we now have what is going to take place in the future, where he will be given a period of time for 1,203 score days. That's 1260, 1,203 score days, which is the exact same Jewish calculation as 3.5 years, 42 months, or a time, and a dividing of a time, or the latter half of the tribulation period. The woman, which is Israel, will have to flee to the wilderness, where she have a place prepared of God that they should feed her that period of time. Now, there are certain nations in Daniel chapter 11 in the area of Assyria and different parts of that part of the world that the Bible indicates the Antichrist will have no power over. And there are ministers and ministries and there are people around the world and business people that are going into those areas and boring caves in the mountains and packing it with food and water and so on, so that people will be able to survive the tribulation period. That is happening even now. A place in the wilderness that is prepared for her to be protected during that time. Are you there with me? Alright? Now, from verse 7, we see an event of a vision where there is war in heaven. Now notice you will see coming on the stage here is Michael and his angels. Michael is the angel or the archangel that is assigned over the nation of Israel. I see a lot of people moving around and they indicate that they are protected. I saw a guy on his car sticker, I am protected by Michael the archangel. Michael is to protect the nation of Israel. For example, in Daniel, when you had a world power which was the Persians were in power, you found Michael was battling with the prince of Persia in order for Gabriel to come with the message. And then Gabriel indicated there will be a political change. When the Grecians are in power, he says we have to go back and fight with the prince of Greece. Are you there with me? Now you have the antichrist in power, and we find Michael again is battling with the prince of that because of what is taking place on the earth. Are you there with me? Alright? So Michael and his angels will fight against the dragon and his angels. And you will notice that they are cast out. So there is a vision of war in heaven, anticipating Satan's exclusion from heaven and his restriction restriction to the earth during the last half of the tribulation period. Michael the archangel is the leader in God's holy angel. Satan is the chief of the fallen angel. At the middle of the tribulation period, God will empower Michael and his forces to cast Satan and his forces out of access to heaven, so that Satan must after confine his activities to the earthly sphere. Satan lost his final position in heaven as the accuser of the brethren. Are you there with me? The accuser of the brethren. Now, remember Adam gave him all of the office and so on like that. And he's God of this world, prince of the power of the air and all of these things. Number of office that he had. He lost a lot of authority and office at Calvary when Christ beat him as a man. Are you there with me? But he still have one office, and that's the accuser of the brethren. You know, in certain companies, different people have different office in different locations. For example, where I work in San Fernando, we got an office also in Guapo. We have an office also in the Twin Towers. We have an office also in Houston. We have an office also in Canada. There's our office in a big building. There's one office. We can move in and get access to everything. So the same way to us, well, he has this last office. And by the middle of the tribulation period, he will lose the final office that he have in heaven. He is given 4 designations: dragon, which shows his monstrous character as the enemy of God. He is called serpent, connects him with his clever deception of Eve in Genesis 3 and many other places. He's called devil as the slanderer. Alright? Called devil as a slanderer as well. And then he's called Satan, which is the adversary who deceives the whole world. And I always tell people that Satan really only have one main tool to deceive. Switch truth into lie and lie into truth. Alright? To deceive. From verses 10 to 12, we actually see where the words salvation and strength and kingdom and power all refer to the coming millennium kingdom of Christ. With reference to the believers, Satan is more commonly a tempter and the accuser of the brethren before God. You all remember Job? He come up to accuse. Alright? Believers will overcome him through the blood of Christ and their witness or their testimony of Christ. So, during the tribulation period, people will accept Christ or accept the gospel based on the activity of the 2 witnesses and the 144,000 Jewish evangelists that are preaching. They may not have the time to grow in faith, but they will overcome by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony. And this is part a lot of time we don't see. And they love not their lives unto the death. It is 3-dimensional. When it talks about testimony here, it is not talking about the last time your testimony. It is talking about your salvation experience. Are you there with me? It is talking about their encounter, how you get saved. So that is what they will overcome with during that time. Alright? During that time. The last half of the tribulation will be a time of terrible trouble on the earth, called Jacob's trouble and so on like that. It will be Satan's final attempt to prevent the return and reign of Christ. He has only a short time to prevent the establishment of the kingdom. So he comes to earth and there's a declaration. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. So this is the last woe. All the people on the earth that dwell in the sea. Why? The devil himself has come down. He knows that he has but a short time. What is the short time? 3.5 years, 42 months, 1,260 days. He knows that he has but a short time. Are you there with me? Alright? So, therefore, he has great wrath and intensified his persecution of Israel, God's chosen nation. While at the same time he will set up his counterfeit kingdom through the beast and the false Messiah. The saints has a trinity method of overcoming Satan during this time. Is the blood of the Lamb, the word of the testimony, and they love not their lives unto the death. Are you there with me? Okay, verse 13 and 14. There we see some more things again. Satan's persecution of Israel is apparently an attempt to exterminate God's chosen people, thereby preventing the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham and David in the Messianic kingdom. But God protects Israel as a wing of a great eagle is given to the nation of Israel, where they are swiftly able to escape from persecution. Now, this is not thus saith the Lord. This is just my personal observation. Israel is given the wings like an eagle. Now, remember, this is a nation. This is a people group. I am of the view that one of the possible allude that we have in Scripture that the Western world will help the nation of Israel is here. To escape the Antichrist, they will move in and help them. Because a lot of the major powers in the Western world operate with the symbol of the eagle. And you will notice that the woman, which is Israel, is given wings like an eagle. Are you there with me? So there may be an allusion here or a link here during the tribulation period that we will have a major role to play in assisting the nation of Israel to escape the Antichrist. And the only link I'm making to that is the concept of the wings like an eagle. You all understand what I'm saying? Alright? And again, that's not thus saith the Lord, that's just my perspective. The wilderness symbolizes the Gentile nation in the world where believers will help and hide Jews from the Antichrist persecution. That's kind of like World War II, when people will hide Jews from Hitler and from his terror. According to Zechariah chapter 3, verses 7 to 9, however, 2/3 of the Israelites will die first. The time and half a time is actually talking or refers to the tribulation period, or what is called the Great Tribulation. In verse 15 to 17, flood symbolizes overwhelming evil and persecution. Satan, through the Antichrist and his forces, will persecute the Jews throughout the earth, but the Gentile believers on the earth will receive them and hide them. The remnant there may be referred to either Jewish believers who have refused to worship Satan and the beast, or Gentile believers who are the seed of Abraham through Christ. The last half of the tribulation period will see a worldwide persecution of those that have genuine belief in the name of Jesus. So watch your spot. You'll see the dragon was wrought with the woman, and he makes war with the remnant of the seed of her seed. So that's talking again of the Jewish people who kept the commandment of God. Keeping the commandment of God means you keep the law. Remember, the Jewish people hold on to the law. Are you there with me? But they also have the testimony of Jesus, which means, therefore, that they hold to the law, but they also hold to as well to the teaching of Christ. In other words, then they have accepted Christ as Messiah, or they are holding to the Mosaic law. Are you there with me? Alright? So, very important.